Sophia's voice, cold as ice, echoed through the hotel ballroom. Next, I have a personnel announcement. I was sitting at the sales department's table, joking with a colleague, but the words froze in my throat when I heard my own name. Effective. Immediately, Luke Davis will be reassigned from his position as sales manager to sales associate. He will report directly to VP Mark Lynch. The vast room went silent. 1,000 eyes turned to me, gaze locking on the woman on stage. My wife, Sophia Reed, the CEO of this company. She stood in a sharply tailored black pantsuit, a faint smirk tugging at her red lips, her eyes completely devoid of warmth. This company values merit, not connections, she said, her gaze never leaving mine, her smile laced with contempt. Luke, starting today, I'll teach you the meaning of a level playing field. A few claps broke the silence, but they quickly faded under a rising tide of whispers. What happened? Isn't he the CEO's husband? I heard he married his way to the top. Looks like the ride's over. My fingers tightened around the stem of my wine glass, my knuckles turning white. I said nothing. 6 months ago, we were the couple everyone envied. She'd text me during late nights at the office. "Hubby, I'm craving the pasta you make." I'd secretly hold her hand under the boardroom table, and she'd glare playfully, cheeks flushed. Now she looked at me like I was her worst enemy. She hated me because of what happened, because of one thing I could never tell her. After the gala, I went straight to her office. The door was ajar, and I heard her voice on the phone. "Yes, do exactly as I said. Make his life difficult." Her tone was glacial, so far from the gentle voice I once knew. I knocked. "Come in." She looked up, and when she saw me, her expression hardened. "What is it? Why?" I asked bluntly. She let out a cold laugh, leaning back in her leather throne of a chair. "Why? What? Why the public demotion?" Her eyes, sharp as shattered glass, locked on mine. "Do you really think you deserve to be a manager?" I stayed silent. She rose, her heels clicking against the marble floor as she walked toward me. "Luke, did you really think you could coast through life hiding behind me?" I took a deep breath. "I never thought that, didn't you?" She sneered. "Do you have any idea how many people think you're just a freeloader who married the boss?" "I don't care what they think." "Well, I do." Her voice snapped, sharp and brittle. "I won't let people say Sophia Reed's husband is a worthless parasite." Her words cut deep, stinging my ears. I stood there in silence before finally speaking. "Fine, I accept the transfer." For a split second, she looked surprised, as if she hadn't expected me to give in so easily. I didn't wait for her to finish. I turned and walked out. Back at my desk, my old desk, the way my colleagues looked at me had changed. Some buried their heads in work. Others avoided my gaze completely. Dave, a colleague I usually got along with, walked over and patted my shoulder. "Buddy, what the hell was that?" I forced a small smile. "It's nothing. Just a corporate reshuffle." He looked like he wanted to say more, but he just sighed and walked away. The next afternoon, they moved me to a cubicle in the farthest, darkest corner of the office. The computer there was ancient and wouldn't even turn on. The IT guy just shrugged. "Sorry, Luke. New machines are backordered. Maybe next week." I knew it wasn't an accident. This was an order from the top. That night, I was the last one to leave the office. Standing on the sidewalk, I looked up at the top floor. The lights in the corner office were still on. Sophia was working late. A few months ago, I would have been running up there with her favorite takeout. Now, all I could do was turn and walk away. I came home to our cold, empty apartment. Sophia hadn't been back in weeks. I sank onto the sofa, pulled out my phone, swiped to a picture of me with another woman, looking far too intimate. From the angle, it looked like I was kissing her. That was the reason. The reason Sophia hated me. But she didn't know the truth. I couldn't explain. The woman in the photo was my half-sister, the sister nobody knew existed. She had been sent away as a child. Now she had leukemia. She needed money for treatment. And if Sophia ever found out, everything would unravel. Late that night, I sat Alone in my cramped cubicle, the glow of a borrowed laptop illuminating my face, an anonymous email had just arrived. Attached was the same photo. I let out a bitter laugh and whispered into the empty room, "Sophia, is this really why you hate me so much?" The next morning, an HR email popped up the moment I logged in. To Luke Davis, effective immediately, you will be responsible for client maintenance in the Midwest territory. Travel frequency is adjusted to 3 times per week. Ow. The Midwest was the company's graveyard. The last 3 reps who took it all quit under the pressure. I looked up just in time to see Sophia walking out of her office. She wore a spotless white suit, her heels silent on the carpet, yet her presence muted the whole floor. Her eyes swept across the room, paused on me for just a second, and then moved on as if I didn't even exist. I shut the email and walked toward the break room. Before I even stepped in, I heard voices. "Did you hear? Hey, they're shipping Luke Davis off too. The Midwest serves him right. Can't be a kept man and a cheat at the same time." Keep it down. The moment I pushed the door open, silence. Everyone scattered. Poured myself a coffee without a word and left. By afternoon, I was already on a train to Chicago. My first client meeting was at 7 p.m. on the way. A text from Sophia buzzed on my phone. "I want the sales data for the entire Midwest region for the first half of the year on my desk by Friday." I checked the date Wednesday. That meant I'd have to hit 3 cities in 2 days and somehow compile 6 months of data. "Okay," I replied. She didn't answer. The Chicago client was Henderson, a gruff man in his 50s who'd built a construction empire from scratch. He didn't waste time. "Luke, your company's quote is too high. Keps is coming in 10 points lower." I slid the file across the table. "Mr. Henderson, our material quality is above theirs. Here are the lab reports." He glanced at the folder and pushed it aside. "Don't care about paperwork. Can you lower the price or not?" "The absolute best I can do is a 5-point reduction." "That's our bottom line," he sneered, "and there's nothing to talk about. Show 'em out." I stood, keeping my voice steady. "Mr. Henderson, we've been partners for years. I'm asking you to reconsider." He waved me off. His assistant escorted me out. Outside the skyscraper, I lit a cigarette. It was 10:30 p.m. My phone buzzed again. "Sophia, did the Henderson meeting fall through?" My stomach tightened. How could she know so quickly? "Still in discussion," I typed. Her reply was instant. "Don't lie to me." I crushed the cigarette under my shoe. "I'll figure something out on my shoe. I'll figure something out." She didn't answer. I took the red-eye back and reached the office before sunrise to grab files. The atmosphere was tense. People were whispering in little groups, but they broke apart when I walked in. At my cubicle, I froze. My laptop had been tampered with. Every file was gone. "Who touched my computer?" I asked. No one answered. The intern in the next seat mumbled, "Mr. Lynch was here this morning." I didn't say a word. I went straight to it. Frank, the department head, looked uncomfortable. "Luke, I'd help if I could. But Lynch said your computer had a virus. He ordered us to wipe it." "What about my hard drive?" "It's gone, man. Nothing we can do." I clenched my fists, then forced them open. At lunch, I sat alone on the rooftop until my phone rang. It was the hospital. "Mr. Davis, your sister's next chemotherapy payment is due. We need it by tomorrow." "Okay, I'll transfer it today." After the call, I checked my bank account. Since the demotion, my salary had been slashed. Between that and Chloe's treatment bills, I was nearly out of savings. I stared at my phone for a long time before finally typing a message to Sophia. "Can I get a 3-month payroll advance?" "What?" "It's an emergency." No reply. At 3 p.m., accounting called me in. The CFO slid a form across the desk. "Mr. Davis, Ms. Reed approved your request, but you'll need to sign this agreement." It was a performance-based clawback. Within 3 months, I had to increase Midwest sales by 30%. Fail, and I'd have to repay double the advance. "Ms. Reed's terms," the CFO said flatly. "Sign it, or forget the advance." I picked up the pen and signed. That evening, as I was packing up, Sophia's assistant appeared. "Mr. Davis, Ms. Reed wants to see you." I tightened my grip on my briefcase and walked toward her office. She was reviewing a document and didn't Look up. Sit. I sat in the chair across from her desk. She closed the file and looked at me, her face unreadable. Do you know why I made you sign that agreement? I do. Tell me. You want to force me to quit? A small, humorless smile touched her lips. You're not as dumb as you look. I met her eyes. I'm not quitting. She stood, walked around the desk, and looked down at me. Luke, how long do you really think you can last? Long enough? Her eyes narrowed. Fine, we'll see about that. Outside night had already fallen. I stood on the sidewalk, pulled out my phone, and dialed a number I hadn't used in a long time. Hey Chris, I need you to look into someone for me. Who? Mark Lynch. I want to know everything he's been doing for the past 6 months. I hung up and glanced at Sophia's office window. The light was still on. I knew this was only the beginning. By 2 a.m., I was still buried in client data, the laptop screen burning my eyes. I rubbed my temples, ready to shut it down, when a new email popped up. The sender was a string of random characters. The subject line read, "Nice work, Mr. Davis." I opened it. A photo filled the screen, me sitting in a coffee shop with a woman. She was leaning close, her head almost on my shoulder. My hand rested on the back of her chair, but from the angle. It looked like my arm was wrapped around her. The email body had just one line. Does Ms. Ree know about this? My temples throbbed. The woman was my sister, Chloe. I had taken her out last week after a chemo session, but the photo had been cropped to look incriminating. The next morning, I was summoned to the CEO's office. I walked in and saw Sophia standing with her back to me, staring out the floor-to-ceiling window. "Close the door," she said flatly. I shut it and waited. She turned an iPad in her hand and tossed it onto the table. It slid to a stop in front of me. On the screen was last night's photo. My throat tightened. It's not what you think. And what is it? She walked toward me, her heels sinking into the thick carpet. Who is she? A friend. A friend. She let out a sharp, incredulous laugh and zoomed in on the photo. Since when do you have friends like this? You look pretty comfortable with her. I almost told her the truth. That's my sister, but stopped. If Chloe's identity came out, the press would dig into everything. Her illness, father, all of it. Seeing my silence, Sophia's eyes grew colder. So you're not denying it? I'm not. Then tell me who she is. I stayed silent. She studied me. Then a slow, chilling smile spread across her face. Wow, Luke. Just. Wow. She picked up her desk phone, hit speed dial, and said, Mark, halt all projects in the Midwest. I want a full reassessment of every partnership in that region. Then she slammed the phone down and looked at me. You can go. Back at my desk, I found my computer locked again. It told me it was an order from Mr. Lynch for security. Everyone else's machines worked fine. At noon, Dave pulled me aside. Man, what did you do to piss off the boss this time? It's nothing. Don't give me that. Lynch just announced he's taking over all your accounts. My fists clenched right after you walked into her office. That afternoon, while preparing the handover files, my phone rang. It was Chloe's doctor. Mr. Davis, your sister's results are back. She needs surgery as soon as possible. When? Next week would be ideal. The cost is about $200,000. I closed my eyes. Oh, okay, I'll get the money. After the call, I checked my account. $3,000 left. That night, I met Chris for a drink. He was one of the few friends I still had. 200 grand? Man, I'm tapped out, Chris said. Why don't you ask Sophia? Not an option. What are you going to do? Sell a kidney. I didn't answer, just drained my whiskey. Chris leaned closer. Look, I know a guy, a loan shark. The interest is brutal, but you'll get the cash fast. I hesitated. Give me his number. The next day, I went to a grimy office in an industrial park. The loan shark was bald with a thick gold chain. 3 months, 50% interest. Late and it doubles. I signed the contract. He slid me 20 stacks of cash. Pay on time, Mr. Davis. Back at the office, the receptionist stopped me. Luke, Ms. Ree wants to see you in her office. I clutched the duffel bag of cash, palms sweating, and pushed her door open. She was signing papers. She looked up, her eyes instantly locking on the bag. Where have you been? Meeting a client. A client who pays in cash. I didn't answer. She stood, walked toward me, and suddenly reached for the bag. I pulled it back instinctively. Her expression changed in an instant. What's in there that I can't see? Personal items, I said. A cold smile touched her lips. Does it belong to that friend of yours? I didn't deny it. She stared at me for a long moment before speaking again. Luke, I want a divorce. My head snapped up. She didn't hesitate. The papers are already drawn. My lawyer will contact you tomorrow. Her voice was casual, almost like she was discussing the weather. Now get out. I stood on the street below, clutching the bag of money, when my phone rang. It was Chloe. Hey, bro. The doctor said I can have the surgery next week. Yeah, I said softly. The money's ready. Your voice sounds rough. Have you been staying up all night again? I took a breath. No, I'm fine. You just rest. I hung up and glanced up at Sophia's office. The lights were still on. That's when I knew some things were broken beyond repair. At the hospital, I stood in the corridor, my hand trembling over the print button on the bone marrow registry. Donor ID D107. Match probability 92%. A nurse stopped by and said gently, Mr. Davis, that donor's file is sealed. We'll need more documentation from the family. Inside the room, Chloe was folding paper cranes. She quickly hid her painkillers under the blanket when she saw me. Hey bro, the doctor said my white count. It'll be fine. I cut her off, adjusting the foredrip. An overdue payment notice peeked out from under a vase on the nightstand. Since the demotion, my salary barely covered her treatments. The nurse reappeared. Mr. Davis, about the outstanding balance? The elevator doors slid open. Sophia stepped out, carrying a stack of files. She froze when she saw me near the room. Her eyes narrowed. What are you doing here? Who's sick? Chloe started. Coughing violently, the heart monitor shrieked. A friend's daughter, I said quickly, trying to block her view. Sophia pushed past me. Joe Fran's daughter makes you take for days off work. A nurse rushed in. Patient needs oxygen. Amid the chaos, a medical chart slipped to the floor. Sophia's eyes locked on it. Patient. Chloe Evans. Guardian. Brother. Her hand trembled as she read it. Chloe Evans. Charles Evans' daughter. The man who killed my mother. She's your sister. Her voice was sharp, dripping with venom. And you? Who are you really? I swallowed hard. He's my father. Her face twisted. So I married the son of a murderer. I grabbed her wrist. Sophia Liss and I didn't know when we first met. She ripped her arm away, leaving a red mark on my skin. 5 years. For 5 years, I slept beside you. 5 years with my mother's killer's son. The attending physician rushed over. Mr. Davis, the D107 donor, has agreed to meet. Sophia snatched the tablet from his hands. Her face drained of color. This is my father's donor ID. Her voice cracked. She swayed and I instinctively tried to steady her, but she shoved me away. You and your father, you're quite a pair. A bitter laugh escaped her, followed by tears. If my dad knew? If he knew he almost saved the daughter of his enemy. ... On the nurse's station TV, the morning news showed the upcoming memorial for the 10th anniversary of the Apex Chemicals disaster. Mark Lynch appeared on screen, vowing to hold all surviving relatives accountable. My blood ran cold. I finally understood what my uncle meant on his deathbed when he whispered, "Never let anyone find out you're Charles Evans' son." I blocked Sophia at the elevator. Divorce me? Ruin me? I don't care. Chloe, she hit the button. Luke, my office, 9 a.m. tomorrow. Bring the signed divorce papers. The doors almost closed, then she stabbed the open button. Her voice dropped, cold and trembling. You know what's sick? Last week, my dad signed the donation forms and said saving a life was a blessing. And now, that blessing goes to the daughter of the man who murdered his wife? As the doors finally shut, her last words echoed. My mother is watching, Luke. At 3:17 a.m., Chloe slept under sedation. My phone lit up with a text from Chris. Lynch leaked your and Chloe's info to a reporter. Another buzz. this one from a corporate number. Your personnel file has been accessed by legal. A camera flash went off outside the hospital window. 2 men in baseball caps were snapping photos. Of the hospital room, I carefully slid the test results from Chloe's sleeping hand. On the back, the doctor had scribbled in pencil, "Without transplant, patient's life expectancy is less than 3 months." Suddenly, the line on her heart monitor spiked, and the alarm cut through the night. I stood by the window, watching as more reporters gathered outside on the street. My phone buzzed again this time. A text from Sophia's father. My office. 8 a.m. tomorrow. Come alone. I remembered the night before our wedding 3 years ago. Mr. Reed had pulled me into his study. "Luke, my daughter doesn't know about your family, and I won't be the one to tell her. But remember this, if that secret ever hurts her, I will make you pay." That day had finally come. I spent the night sitting on the edge of the hospital roof staring out at the city. "Call from you." Chris jolted me. "Luke, we've got a problem. Lynch leaked all your and Chloe's info to the victim support group. They're mobilizing." "How many?" I asked, gripping the phone tighter. "At least 30. The leader, Ken Thompson, his brother, died in the explosion." When I got back to the room, a nurse was changing Chloe's IV bag. "Mr. Davis? The hospital director needs to see you." In the director's office, 3 security guards stood by the door. The director cleared his throat. "Given the circumstances, the board advises transferring your sister to another facility immediately." He slid an iPad toward me. On the screen was a trending headline: "Killer's children face justice from victims' families." The post showed a photo of Chloe in her hospital bed alongside one of me. The comment section was raging. "We've also received credible information about a protest tomorrow. For the safety of other patients, she must be moved." When I returned, Chloe was awake. "Bro, did I cause trouble for you?" she whispered. I tucked her blanket tighter around her. "Don't be silly. We're just moving you to a nicer hospital tomorrow." Ow. My phone vibrated again this time. An email from Sophia. The subject, divorce agreement. The body of the email was only one line. Signed before 9 a.m. Hospital entrance. 7 o'clock sharp. I barely reached the lobby when chanting hit my ears. An eye for an eye. Kicked the killer's daughter out. Through the glass doors, I saw around 20 protesters waving banners. Ken Thompson stood at the front, shouting into a news camera. "Charles Evans' daughter owes us an explanation." Security stopped me. "Use the back exit. We've got a car waiting." By 7:50 a.m., I was in Reed Industries Tower. Mr. Reed's assistant led me into the main conference room. Sophia's father stood with his back to me, holding a file. "Do you know what this is?" he asked, tossing it onto the table. It was Chloe's bone marrow compatibility report. "Sit," he commanded, his voice calm but heavy. "Let me tell you a story. 10 years ago, in that explosion, my wife didn't have to die. She ran back into the fire to save 3 workers. One of them was Ken Thompson's brother." He slid a faded photograph across the table. This was the last picture taken of her, alive, helping a burned man escape the Apex Chemicals plant. Smoke all around her. His eyes locked on me. "After your father was sentenced, I ran a background check on your entire family, including you and Chloe." He pushed another document forward. "This is the consent form for the bone marrow. Donation, I've already signed it." My head jerked up. "What are the conditions?" His gaze was like ice. "First, you divorce Sophia and leave New York forever. Second, you go to the press and confess you deceived my family, but you will not mention that I knew who you were. And third," he paused, "after she recovers, Chloe Evans must change her name and disappear permanently." The conference room door swung open. Sophia stood there. Her eyes flicked from the papers to me. "Dad, the press is downstairs." "You can leave." "We're not finished," Mr. Reed said firmly. Sophia didn't move. "What are you two talking about?" I looked into her red-rimmed eyes and made my choice. "Mr. Reed, I accept your terms." Then I turned to her. "Chloe is my half-sister. She just turned 18. She was placed in foster care at 8 and knows nothing about the past. Hid my identity because at first I didn't know the full story. By the time I did, I didn't want to lose you." The color drained from Sophia's face. "That's enough," Mr. Reed snapped, slamming his hand on the table. "Get out." Security escorted me out of the building. Ken Thompson and reporters swarmed immediately. "There he is, the killer's son. How dare you show your face?" Flashbulbs blinded me. A water bottle hit my shoulder. Just then, my phone rang the hospital's number. "Mr. Davis, your sister's condition has suddenly worsened. She's coding." I shoved through the crowd and ran. When I reached the hospital, the light above the operating room door was glowing red. A nurse stopped me. "You can't go in." Doctors said Chloe was having an acute rejection episode, and they were doing everything they could to stabilize her. My legs gave out, and I slid down against the wall, my phone slipping from my pocket.
Ow.
The screen still glowed with Sophia's last text. "Why did it have to be you?" Days later, the surgeon finally walked out, his scrubs damp with sweat. "The transplant was a success. Now we just have to monitor for rejection," he said. My knees felt weak with relief. I pulled out my phone, staring at it for a long time before typing. "Chloe's surgery was successful. Sorry, I can't leave yet. I'll come back to sign." The divorce papers, once she's stable. Sent it to Sophia and shoved the phone back into my pocket. At Reed Industries Tower, Sophia sat in her office staring at my message. Her thumb hovered over the reply button, but she didn't press it. Her assistant knocked gently. "Miss Reed, Mr. Lynch is asking about the acquisition." "Get out!" she snapped. Once the door clicked shut, Sophia stared at her screen for another minute before deleting her half-written reply. She tossed the phone into a drawer, where it landed next to our wedding anniversary photo. In it, I was sliding a ring on her finger, and she was smiling so brightly that her eyes crinkled. Her fingers traced over my face in the frame. My birthday last year, when I had secretly decorated the office rooftop with fairy lights. She had walked in late from work and found me waiting with her favorite cake under the glowing canopy. "Happy birthday, my queen." "Make a wish," I had said, with a gentle smile. She had wished we'd be together forever. She thought of last winter, when I'd had a fever but still made her coffee before work. She had scolded me for being stubborn, and I'd just laughed. My queen can't function without her morning brew. From me, tears blurred her vision, dripping onto the glass photo. She tried to wipe them away with her sleeve, only smearing them further. From another drawer, she pulled out a small box filled with post-it notes I had written over the years. Each one began with, "To the best wife in the world," and ended with "your." Loyal servant Luke, she had saved every single one. Suddenly, she hurled a heavy file across the room. Papers scattered in the air as she collapsed to the floor, finally breaking down in a choked sob. "Why did you have to lie to me?" she whispered. "I trusted you. I loved you so much." Memories. Stabbed instead of soothed the nights. I stayed up with Advil and water when she came home drunk. The flu, where I kept cool cloths on her forehead. The day I proposed with hundreds of roses spelling "Marry Me" below her office window. The deeper the love, the sharper the pain. Shaking, she picked up her phone again, scrolling through photos of us. One from last month showed her leaning on my shoulder, my arm around her waist, both of us smiling. "Luke," she whispered into the empty office, "don't you know? I would have rather you lied to me forever." A tear fell on the screen, blotting out my smile. Meanwhile, I sat in Chloe's hospital room, counting the drips in her IV bag. 1, 2, my phone buzzed. Message from Chris. "Got everything on Lynch. It's bad. I'm ready when you are." I typed back a short text and set it down. Catching my reflection in the dark window, I saw an unshaven man with red-rimmed eyes. A nurse walked in and handed me a lab report. "Mr. Davis, the doctor wanted me to remind you. You need to make a decision soon. You should be resting too, especially with your own test results." I know, I cut her off. "Stage for lung cancer." She froze, and I forced a weak smile. "Don't tell my sister." I crumpled the report and shoved it into my pocket. Chris suddenly burst in. "Luke, you have to see this." He shoved his phone toward me. It was an email from Mark Lynch. "The photo's been doctored. Guarantee she won't notice the seams." "Doesn't matter anymore," I muttered, handing the phone back. "It's all over." That night, Sophia returned to our apartment and saw my slippers still by the door. She remembered how, in our first year of marriage, I would come home from every business trip, salute, and say, "Reporting for duty, Madam CEO. Your most loyal employee has returned." She grabbed the slippers, ready to throw them away, but instead collapsed to the floor, clutching them against her chest, sobbing into the silence. Later, she dreamt of our wedding day. Her father had been scowling in the front row while I sweated through my tuxedo at the altar. But when the officiant asked, "Do you, Luke, take Sophia?" I suddenly coughed up blood, staining my white shirt crimson. She jolted awake with a scream, her pillow wet with tears. Her shaking hand reached for her phone on the nightstand. The screen was still open to our last text exchange, my message sitting there, waiting. "I'll come back to sign the divorce papers once she's stable." The empty screen where her reply should have been felt like a wound. Their own, dialing my number, but all she got was a cold recording. "The person you're trying to reach is unavailable." She shot out of bed, grabbed her car keys, and ran. The sharp clicks of her heels echoed down the quiet hospital corridor. At the nurse's station, a woman looked up. "Visiting hours are over." "I'm the CEO of Reed Industries," Sophia snapped, flashing her ID. "Where is Luke Davis?" The nurse hesitated, then pointed down the hall. "Family waiting area, sterile ward." But Sophia was already moving. She rounded the corner and froze. I was hunched over a trash can, racked by a violent coughing fit, dark blood seeping through my fingers. My white shirt clung to my back, soaked with sweat. "Luke," her voice shook. I scrambled to shove the bloody tissues into my pocket. "What?" "Are you in 3 strides?" She was in front of me, grabbing my wrist. A smear of blood stained her palm. "What is this? Stress?" "I'm fine," I rasped. Her eyes locked on my pale lips, and then her hand pressed against my forehead. A heat radiated from me. "You're burning up, coughing blood, and calling it stress." A nurse rushed over. "Ma'am, Mr. Davis needs enough," I snapped. Cutting her off, Sophia let go of me and marched to the nurse's desk. "Tell me everything about his condition." I tried to lunge after her, but dizziness swallowed me whole. The world tilted and I collapsed to my knees in the doctor's office. Sophia's hands trembled around the report. "Stage 4 lung cancer," she whispered. "Since when?" 3 months ago, the doctor said. He refused treatment. He insisted on using every resource for his sister's surgery. Her voice cracked. 3 months. That's when he started disappearing from work. The doctor sighed. He listed only Chloe as emergency contact. Told us he had no other family. Sophia sagged against the wall, the report crumpling in her fist. They wheeled me past her, an IV hooked to my arm. I tried to look away, but she gripped my hand. Her voice broke. "How long were you planning to hide this?" "The patient needs rest," the nurse whispered. "I am his wife," Sophia snapped. "Legally." When the nurse left, her composure shattered. "Are you insane, Luke? Stage 4 cancer, and you never told me?" "It was just bad timing. Chloe was sick, and what about you?" she cried, pressing my hand to her tear-stained cheek. "Look at yourself. Look what you've become." Her tears burned against my skin. She suddenly remembered the back pain I had once mentioned, how she brushed it off during quarterly reports. "Just see a doctor." "Luke," she realized with horror that it had been the cancer spreading. She remembered last week when she'd thrown me out of her office. I'd bent down stiffly to pick up a file, moving like an old man. I had only smiled and said, "Don't be angry, Miss Reed. I'm going." The steady beep of the monitor filled the silence. "Why didn't you tell me?" She whispered. "What, that I was dying?" "You'd what?" I turned to her. "Pity me. Chain yourself to a dying man out of obligation." "Luke, how can you say that?" Her nails dug into her palms. Sighed. "When Chloe got sick, all I wanted was to hide her from you. I didn't want you to know I was Charles Evans' son. Stop it." She shot to her feet, the chair scraping. "What do you take me for? What did our 5 years of marriage mean to you?" I looked straight into her swollen red eyes. They were the best 5 years of my life. Her phone rang. Her father. She silenced it, but it rang again. "Answer it," I said weakly. "Don't make him worry." In the hall, her voice cracked into the receiver. Dad, he's dying. Luke has terminal cancer. The line went silent until her father's heavy voice finally said, I see. Sophia came back and stayed by my side all day, dabbing sweat from my brow with a cool cloth, her tears dripping onto my face. Why wouldn't you get treatment? She begged. Chloe couldn't wait, I whispered. And the survival chance was less than 10%? So you just chose to die? She sobbed. I chose to save the one who could be saved. With shaking hands, she pulled out the divorce papers. I reached for them, but she ripped them in half. You listen to me, Luke, she said, voice raw but steady. You want a divorce? Then you get healthy. You stand up, and you sign a new set. You don't get to use dying as an escape. She tossed the shredded paper into the trash. Otherwise, I will be your wife for the rest of my life. Chris suddenly rushed in, but froze when he saw Sophia. Ms. Reed, do you have it? I asked. He handed her a thick envelope. All the evidence against Lynch enough to put him away for 10 years. Sophia took it firmly. I'll handle this, she said, then turned back to me. Your only job right now is to fight. It's no use, I muttered with a bitter smile. It is, she pushed back, her voice rising. I've already contacted a specialist from Johns Hopkins. He's flying in tomorrow. Chris quietly slipped out, closing the door behind him. That night, Sophia fell asleep in the chair beside my bed, her head resting on the mattress, her hand wrapped tightly. Around mine, just like on our wedding day 5 years ago. The heart monitor quickened slightly. I brushed a stray tear from her cheek. I'm sorry, I whispered. I'm going to make you cry again. The next morning, the specialist from Baltimore examined me, removed his stethoscope, and shook his head. 2 weeks at most. Sophia's nails dug so deep into her palms that beads of blood welled up. Isn't there anything else? Any other option? We've exhausted every treatment, the doctor said gently. The cancer is too aggressive. Thank you, doctor, for everything. I managed weakly before another violent cough cut me off. Sophia caught me, holding my head as blood stained her silk blouse. Just then, Chloe was wheeled in, her lap full of carefully folded paper cranes, her eyes red from crying. Bro, I walked 3 steps on my own today. Her gaze fell on Sophia's tear-streaked face, and her own tears flowed again. Sophia knelt by her side. Your brother wants to see the sunrise over the ocean. Will you come with us? Private? Ambulance brought us to a secluded beach in the Hamptons. Sophia had cleared the entire shore. Medics set up a hospital bed, but I insisted on a wheelchair. The salty wind brushed against my face. It's so peaceful, I whispered, closing my eyes. Sophia suddenly fell to her knees before me, burying her face in my lap. Her shoulders shook violently as she tried to stifle her sobs. My coughs worsened, blood spilling again. She stayed on her knees in the sand, uselessly dabbing at my lips. Just hold on a little longer, she begged. The sun's almost up. I stared at the horizon. I'm sorry, I whispered, my voice fading. My breaths grew shallow. Sophia held me close, humming our wedding song through her tears. Look, she pointed at the horizon. It's getting lighter. I fought to keep my eyes open, but everything blurred into gray. Sophia, I think I see my mom. Don't go, she pleaded, clinging tighter. Please don't go. As the first golden light broke over the ocean, my heart gave out. Sophia refused to let go, holding me until the medics gently pulled her away. Ms. Reed, he's gone. She shook her head frantically. No, he promised me. He promised he'd watch the sunrise. The sun stretched our shadows long across the sand, making them look like one just like in our wedding photo. But strangely, I could still see everything. I watched Sophia collapse onto the sand. I watched Chloe fall into her arms. I tried to wipe Sophia's tears, but my hand slipped. Through her cheek, I floated beside her as she dressed me in the tuxedo from our wedding day. She wept, fumbling with the bow tie. It's so ugly. Told you, this style was outdated. She sobbed. Chris arrived with red eyes and handed her a letter. I found this in his desk. Sophia unfolded it, one sentence written in my handwriting. If there really is a next life, I'd still show up for that job interview just to see you again, as my body was taken away. Sophia cried out, Wait! She pulled out our wedding rings. He should be wearing this. Medic slid it onto my finger. The moment the ring touched my skin, a warm light engulfed me. Everything dissolved into pure white, soft and safe. Then from the light a little girl appeared, wide-eyed and curious. "Hi," she said.